Tater brain.
Teaser!
Helping with salt and butter them minds, buds. And warm up that brain gravy.
Okay, so, excuse me. Rather than post nothing this week, since I did have a scheduling conflict with my regularly scheduled Dungeons and Dragons group, go figure, that never happens, right? They ran a pretty awesome one shot from the sounds of it, but if I'm not there, I can't record it. So rather than release nothing, I figured we'd just chew the fat about the arc we just completed in our campaign, as we're kind of between arcs. And I'm going to wrap this little chewing the fat sesh up with a teaser at the end for a podcast that me and one of my fellow nerd sesh loving buddies is gonna we're gonna try to launch up, get it off the ground, see if we can stir up a little interest in it. So if you don't follow along on Tater Brain Pod's YouTube channel, that's not necessarily for this. Yeah, I'm just kind of talking from a DM perspective for a bit about this arc me and my players just kind of completed. So I had originally wrote 10 encounters to be an arc. It actually ended up lasting 20 sessions, so I got double my money, I guess, out of that. So I kind of had just planned with the player the regions and locations a bit, kind of based on the background information. So once I got a hold of some graph paper and I did a few doodles here and there, but I eventually landed on, a acceptable map, I guess, that I could work into the story. And then I put 10 separate locations on this map, each of them just a settlement, really, varying in scope and size. Some were cities within cities, giant metropolis type areas. Others were shipping and transport hubs, and there was even like a several dusty houses and a single dusty bar type of a situation. So the settlements kind of really varied, but I didn't exactly flesh out like I didn't map out every square inch of every city or anything. Essentially, of these 10 locations, I had just taken a few like descriptor paragraphs, not only to describe to the players kind of like what they were coming upon, but to kind of for myself. And I don't know, it kind of worked out. It was a pleasant surprise to see the players kind of doing a thorough exploration of most of the cities that I had created. At some point, because this was a lower level campaign, in the arc, not a campaign, it's an average campaign, but it's a lower level arc because this is the arc we have started with. So we have gone from we've taken 5 adventurers from level 2 to level 6, and that being said, I think not railroading the players is what gave me so much bang for my buck when I created this world, because rather than give them like a set task or like a direction of some kind, I just kind of let them use their own like information gathering skills, whether the dice be kind or not, and they kind of made their own assumptions about what was going on in the world, some right, some not so right, but I didn't confirm nor deny anything. I just kind of let them go about and make their own way. And I think that was the result of why it was like so successful with just these 10 kind of basic locations that at least in my mind, I definitely got more than I bargained for. There was a lot of oh crap, I gotta think of something on the spot, even though I had already prepped several descriptor paragraphs. So they kept me on my toes for sure, but at the same time, like I said, of the 10 locations created, only one was unvisited. In the campaign, there is a desert that meets a Arctic lake, and where the two meet, there was a community. But that is the only location that was not actually explored by the players. So kudos to them, because I figured I didn't design it so that they would go to every single location. To be honest, I figured they would have to hit 3 to 5 of these locations, but the fact that they got 9 out of 10 just is on them. And like I said, when you get 20 sessions out of 10 encounters, the RP, for everything I had planned, there was a whole session of how I thought shit was gonna go, and it just became RP, and it was actually a pleasant surprise and really awesome. So I highly recommend not railroading your players, letting them kind of figure stuff out for themselves. Let's talk about total time spent in game since the party united. It is just over 4 weeks. So in game, the time that has passed is roughly a month, and as heroes tend to do, they've accomplished quite a bit in roughly a month's time. Something else before I forget. Something else I really liked. There were 2 locations that somehow became like economic hubs for the players. I mean, the markets were there. I designed it to have a good economy, but the players confirmed that it was definitely a thriving economy. The 2 locations I'm talking about are Dipper's Point and Frostfire, for anybody who's following along on the Tater Brain Pod's YouTube channel. But that is where the party spent the most coin, spending several thousand gold cumulatively at each location. So I definitely got to cash in on some of the big economic boons that I had gifted the party at these couple locations. Keeping them humble, but also well equipped. So I'm not 100% on how I feel about any of this yet. So I just kind of want to end it out before we start this teaser. I just want to talk real quick about the victories in combat. How victorious this party has actually been over the last 20 sessions. So we're gonna start out 12 bullywogs. That was a good fight. I enjoyed it. I think I got a few death saving throws, and the very first fight, level 2, they were super crunchy. 3 ankegs, roughly 40 bounty hunter / slaver types, and that was split up over a few different sessions, a few different encounters with this faction, if you will. And I say roughly because they did kind of sort of show mercy like once or twice. I do believe at least one of the 40 was given redemption or placed in permanent servitude. So he's kind of ironic. Either way, a single boulette, which that was a good fight, and actually led to the party harvesting some parts from this magical creature to create some stuff later on. That was pretty good. Roughly 80 Sturge. So the Sturge fight was kind of awesome. I kept a loose total. I say roughly because area of effect spells could take out so many. I didn't have the exact number down at that point after a few area of effect spells cracked up. So moving on down, one young green dragon that I did slightly modify because the party is a little bit tougher than I like to admit. So that was a good combat as well. Nobody actually died there. That was kind of disappointing. I really tried to kill those guys. 7 winter wolves. That was a decent fight. 4 elite royal guards. That was quite a there was quite the song and pony show. It was quite the entry into this combat. Before that combat went down, they tried so hard to not, but the dice just don't care sometimes. Following the 4 elite royal guards is 1 stone golem, or a silver ore golem for flavor for me, and then the ultimate sorceress of the ultimate evil of the be the big bad evil guy of the arc, which would be one Silver Queen. So that being said, that's a pretty impressive little I don't know resume for a bunch of low level characters, and it was super fun to make. It was super fun to play with these guys. They definitely kept me on my toes and kind of challenged me creatively. And man, it was awesome. I had a great time. I think they had a great time. They still keep showing up session after session, despite me trying to murder them constantly. So they must at least kind of like it. So that being said, I am going to get out of here. I'm going to let that teaser kind of roll. Like I said, me and one of my fellow nerds, we are going to try to launch a podcast here soon. So check out this teaser and let me know what you think about it. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Chris,
And I am Sean.
and this is Monsters and Mythos, a podcast where we look at D&D monsters and races and compare them to their original folklore and mythology surrounding them.
Well said, well put. Pretty excited. It's been a fun little project so far, and me and Chris have a little bit of a background in at least Dungeons and Dragons and things. I've been the forever DM for as long as I can remember, at least through a handful of editions. So it'll be fun to kind of take a hobby and do a little bit of a deep dive. Sometimes, maybe an opinionated or analytical view on one of my favorite hobbies. So it's cool to get it out there and in the works. So, anything else there, Chris?
I'm fairly new to D&D, been playing for about a year, but always had a interest in it, and I've actually been a mythology folklore geek since about the 5th grade, where I really got into Greek and Roman mythology. So it was fun hearing some of the stories and characters that I grew up with portrayed. But I do remember what caused me to want to do this style was I learned about the Gorgon in D&D, and I saw a picture of a metallic bull looking at me. And my head said, that's not right. So then I looked up Medusa specifically and realized they used her as a species rather than a titular character. And since not everybody got into mythology, it's like, hey, I wonder if people know that a lot of these creatures are based on actual stories. And how can you take them and work them back into your own game?
Yeah,
And
that's pretty. And like, not. It's always been fascinating to me. Part of why I think this podcast will be so fun, so just to get it out there. It's I've always been fascinated by like cryptids and things like that ever since I was a kid, and then obviously a big part of tabletop RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons specifically, is you know this big like lore and the tales from the behind the scenes of these creatures, maybe like where they originate or where they're from or how they got to where they are today. That's always been like a super fun aspect of Dungeons and Dragons and cryptids and things. So like I don't know, I'm pretty excited to get in and test the waters here. I think it'll be quite fun.
And so for this podcast, each episode, we're going to take a look at either a race of a playable character or something from the official source monster manuals. And Sean is going to break down its D&D history. Perhaps how would you like to describe what you're going to be looking at with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, depending on the topic, we're going to kind of break it down, and I'm going to kind of we're going to take a look at, how things have changed through the few editions. A lot of things stayed the same, a lot of things didn't.
we're talking about how the species races have kind of just evolved over time, a lot of them anyway. And then I'm gonna kind of take a step back and give my a DM perspective on, say, maybe playing the character, or like a type of character creation for like PCs or NPCs. Maybe it's a type of creature that's typically an evil adversary. I'll give my tips and hints on how I would approach this type of encounter or monster with PCs and whatnot. So hopefully, I don't want to box it in anything too specific. I want to keep it kind of broad, but it's definitely going to be coming from mostly the DM perspective, through the ages, if you will.
And then I'll be focusing more on the folklore and mythology, such as who was Medusa, what were the Harpies, how were elves portrayed through Norse mythology versus Celtic mythology, as well as the now famous elf picture that was tweeted by the president of Mexico. And then again, we're going to compare how the D&D version of these characters equate to their original, and perhaps work out how you can bring that original mythology and folklore into your D&D game. And that's about all we have planned at this point.
All right, yeah, and sounds exciting. Hopefully, it drums up a little bit of interest. At the very least, pretty fun experience. So hopefully, we got a bunch of people who come along on this ride with us. So awesome. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up this disclaimer. You got anything else last minute?
Just we're looking at a bi-weekly release, and if you have questions, comments, we have an email at monstersandmythos@gmail.com. Be sure to reach out and perhaps tell us ones you're interested in, and we'll bump them up on our list.